criminals that we really need. That's of use to anybody even. In fact, I'll challenge you again. What does Washington, D.C. produce other than misery? It is a federal zone. It is not just another state. It was built as the District of Criminals, okay? Washington, D.C. It is not a state, the state of Michigan, the state of Iowa. It is a federal zone. All of the ill, all of the fetishes, all of the insanity, all of the perversion that could possibly be brought into these admiralty institutions like the ATF, FBI, Homeland Suck, SUCK-security, suck-urity, okay? All of these bizarre and Twilight Zone institutions, TSA, all come and emanate from that pit. It has authority there, which is the only place it was supposed to have any real authority. And again, it was also designed as a neutral zone when it was built. It was not designed to be an imperial institution. That's the difference between what we have now and what we had in the past. Not that it hasn't been permutated over and over again where these certain characters have come to power. The big thing is that, again, were anybody to do that, there have been successful pro-firearms, open carry events all around Washington, D.C. And D.C. has pissed and moaned, but they couldn't do anything because they don't have authority. However, going past the line in the District of Criminals, again, armed but not armed to fight, armed to sacrifice. The sacrifice serves no purpose and gains nothing. Simply because, again, there's a couple phases to this, and we know this because we've seen it. If you get caught up in something down the road from your house right now, let's say 20 miles away, and somebody claims that you were in a shootout or you had a gun and you left the area, but you can't be found, or even if you could be found, or what they will do if they were to grab you, is the phase 2 is sometime in the next hour or half hour or 20 minutes or 2 hours, your house is going to be ransacked. Am I right or am I wrong? Everybody out there has watched video after video locally. The police have surrounded the house. Oh, really? Is there a standoff? No, the house is surrounded because the guy was involved in an incident 40 miles away. Or where somebody was murdered, somebody was shot, somebody suspected something, somebody wrote a report. And the next thing that happens is the bat faggots, the FBI, all these different alphabet soup agencies go to Gibson Guitar and ransack it. Well, wait a minute. Oh, you saw that on national television, didn't you? Well, they go to wherever they go, your home, your house, the apartment. They get all the neighbors to move. Wait a minute, he's not even there. It doesn't make any difference. It's show business time. And then they go into the house, and one at a time they pick up your rifle, your shotgun, your pistol, and or computers in addition to everything else. They make sure they carry those out so they can be seen. Whoa, look, they got the computers. They must be evil and full of something. Well, even if they aren't, they're going to steal them. And valuables are in pockets. That's why the pockets are bulging, and you'll never figure out where your mom's jewelry went. You'll never figure out where your money went. You'll never know, where even the jar of pennies went that was next to your bed. Okay, but every gun will be carried out by the end of its barrel and laid on a white sheet or laid out, and they'll keep the press far enough so they can't see. Oh, suspected machine guns. Wait a minute, that's a single-shot bolt-action 22. That's a top break 12 gauge, and they have to evaluate the weapons because they may be altered fully automatic weapons. And it looks like he's got a cap and ball revolver, and that's it. So what fool from the ATF? Well, again, it's all propaganda. So if you have this whole line of people that were supposed to go and sacrifice themselves and throw themselves on their bayonets with one magazine or one loaded, one loaded round and, maybe 4 rounds in the magazine, well, still, if it's a bolt gun. They were then going to be, of course, prepped, and everybody was going to understand that, all these other, events, it was going to transpire the way we just explained? Or was everybody supposed to be wearing the rose-colored glasses and totally naive to the world and the way it works? Question mark. Anyway, I tell you what, it sounds like we have a caller. Who do we have?
I was just going to say also, Mark, that, the District of Columbia is where the illegal Electoral College culminated from. I mean, if it wasn't for the Electoral College, this United States of America would be a far different place right now, I'll tell you.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the Electoral College was cultivated because the District of Columbia was so small that they didn't have a fair chance at representation. So they, sure enough, the criminals played their hand, and they played it well with that damned Electoral College, I'll tell you.
Well, this gets back to when we talk about the Electoral College, that's a separate issue, but it's not, because it's tied into the whole thing about what was the original purpose, how were they able to argue Washington, D.C.? And it did make sense, except that we also know there were ulterior motives of the ring knockers, okay? There was symbolism with regard to location, symbolism and occultism with regard to how they mapped out the city, and they kept going through surveyors. And they kept going through personnel that were working on the project. They, in fact, remember, finally, one guy after another left the project. They got kind of, they got frustrated. What they don't want to talk about is they kept adding things and changing things, so, without them being approved, and it turns out that there was a whole agenda there. The idea from the public end was, again, like I said, it was supposed to be a neutral piece of real estate where no single state would control. But then somebody said, well, what about these poor people in the area? How can they be given an opportunity? It's like, well, wait a minute. First of all, it doesn't serve that purpose. Just like any other neutral capital, if that's what it's supposed to be, whoever's in there is supposed to be technically from someplace else. In other words, unless they wish to surrender themselves, remember, that's all accommodated. But that's the old Sadducees and Pharisees problem. Originally, if you wanted to become a citizen of the United States, of the District of Criminals, you could do just exactly that, or you would serve in that area, but understand that you had limitations. And those limitations were put on you for another reason that people don't really understand. If you have that kind of power, which is the basic thing that we shot out of this country, then why is it that why would we allow you to have any kind of special privileges or special exonerations, or allow you, both the ability to interact outside of the District of Criminals and be given special, control, special contact, special ears to the rail? There was a lot of other suspicion going on because of feathering nests and things like that have always been an issue with bureaucracy. And the people of the time, contrary to everybody thinks, were pretty well up to speed on that. That's something that nobody really talks about either, is, again, why was it encapsulated? Everybody thinks the reverse. Well, Washington, D.C. is the big over everything. No, Washington, D.C., up until the Buck Act, was contained like it was in a box, a literal box. And they were frustrated to no end. Now, the Federal Reserve got them what they needed, but all this other BS back in the 1930s with FDR, that's where the major shift takes place. And now, in this day and age, it's like I've said, what do they produce? They weren't supposed to produce anything anyway. They were supposed to be very limited. And even then, checks and balances were to keep them from moving without the people knowing what they're doing. Now...
They produce very territorial.
Right. Well, exactly. Well, actually, under any other circumstances, to be called a conspiracy, it would be a conspiracy of individuals, because you have a minority that are now acting under veils of secrecy that simply cannot be breached. So we're right back to where we were in 1775 when it stated a multitude of offices and agents that would eat out our substance. They were doing that. They've been doing that. So what we're going to do, we're going to go to break. Everybody stay right where you are. John? Your number for Night Vision before we go to break.
Hey, you can reach me at 231-796-8458. 231-796-8458. And we will be right back. We got a break, but we'll be right back.
Good night, Admiral!
Back to Basics, a clinical reference guide for nursing students by Daniel D. Dans, now available at Amazon.com. The book includes laboratory tests with over 60 basic lab tests, which includes normal values, significance of the test, and what causes low and high values. The chapter on checkoffs includes 29 basic skills that a nursing student must become familiar with before starting their clinicals. The chapter on assessments will help the student to choose the right words and or phrases to improve their documenting skills. The chapter on medications covers over 125 medications with information about insulin, patient rights, a drug index for quick reference which includes generic and trade names, medical terms, medication classification, common uses for the medication, the action of the medication, nursing implications, and additional notes of importance on the medications. There are drug and herb interaction charts, food and drug interaction charts, patient checklists, medical math equations for practice, IV flow rates, and a poem called There Is Always Hope. Back to Basics, a clinical reference guide for nursing students, is a softcover book with 118 pages jam-packed with information the student nurse will need during their clinical. The cost is $30 plus shipping and handling, and it is now available at Amazon.com. The ISBN number is 978-0615-55987-2.
When a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce the people under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security.
Once again, the Republic is calling on its sons and daughters to unite. Join the revolution Friday at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time at the Militia Town Hall meeting with Ed the AK-47 on LibertyTreeRadio.4mg.com, PBN.4mg.com, Live 365 in the Hallmark Network. Add your voice to the discussion by calling in on the new conference line at 712-432-0900. Then enter 957-464 and the pound sign. That's the Militia Town Hall meeting every Friday at 7 on LibertyTreeRadio.4mg.com, PBN.4mg.com, Live 365 in the Hallmark Network. For more information, go to LibertyTreeRadio.4mg.com.
to our marching drum, we'll win the war and pay the toll. We'll fight as one in heart and soul. Midnight mare and blood-red roan, fight to keep this land your own. Sound the horn and call the cry. How many of them can we make die? Axes flash, rifles swing, shining armors piercing a ring. Houses run with a polished shield. Fight those bastards till they yield. Midnight mare, blood-red roan, fight to keep this land your own. Sound the horn and call the cry. How many of them can we make die? How many of them can we make die? How many of them can we make die?
Now there's a refrain to memorize. How many of them can we make die? That's words to live by. Because think about it. You make your opponent die when he's here to make you die. How many of them can we make die? That's words to live by, isn't it? I'll be quiet. I sometimes I just get too exuberant.
We'll get to the other end of the battlefield, look back, and go, man, it says, it's a nice carpet. They are.
Yes.
Tell you what, we have two callers, I think. We have one that's been patient. First caller, anything else? Don't have to go anywhere, but I just want to give you an opportunity. Go ahead.
No, I'm good.
I'll tell you what, hold on. Well, go ahead. Go ahead, please.
No, I'm good. Go ahead, Mark. I'm finished.
Thank you. I'll tell you what, we have a second voice I heard. Caller, jump in there, please.
Good evening, gentlemen.
We got Dave with us there. Okay, Dave.
Yes. Gee, the Karate Kid got a little flustered today. Whoever's trying to play games with him, that's not a good idea. Not a good idea. Yeah. The bridge issue again. Why would you be so stupid to walk across the bridge? What can you defend standing on a bridge? I don't think there's anything, not even your own butt, can you, Mark?
Well, the issue with this is the timing, the symbolism. There's no real positive symbolism here. That was the thing.
Yeah, it's totally worthless.
The whole concept of the American Revolution, again, wasn't that we weren't going to start it, but if they tried to start it, we were going to finish it. That's the defensive war policy.
It
doesn't mean we won't have more. They didn't
hold the bridge; they blocked the bridge.
Well, yeah. In the case of Concord, Lexington, and Concord, even there, let's remind everybody of a little bit of history. The men who were there at the bridge were not, the ones who actually finally stormed it, where the British were trying to pull up the planks, were the Acton militia. The Concord militia already had a conflict in orders because the discussion had been, do we let them pass through, do what they're going to do? We got everything out of the town. The British were coming for the guns. And when we say guns, we mean artillery pieces, rifles, powder, shot, the works. Artillery was being built at Concord. Well, the militia, to try and prevent direct confrontation, at least until they were more heavily reinforced, the policy was to go across the bridge and wait. So they were collecting in what was a commons area, a field, and a couple of other wood lines. The Acton militia showed up. They, of course, asked everybody, what are you doing? He goes, what are you going to do? And basically one officer and a couple other men said, we're not sure. We don't know. And basically the officer said, I do. And he stepped up onto the road. He called the fife and drummer beside him as they had with march, where they'd marched in. Called the unit to formation, gave them the order to step forward. Within 3 steps, the British fired on that formation, and the officer in charge, the drummer, and the fife were all killed at the same time. And everybody else said, I got a real good idea what to do now. And so the rest is history. But most important is to understand that even at that point, because of everybody's understood policy and also the idea. Here's another thing that everybody has to acknowledge. Nobody wants to be first. Okay, now I understand that part. In this case, the argument for doing what will be done here, if this is not like you're going to get some misdemeanor charge out of the deal. And we've watched this, and I've seen this, and we reported it with a, okay, why do this if you're not going to get the butt to back it up, and it's a sacrifice. It's a throw on the sword where there isn't going to be a positive solution. Of course, the logic there is that, well, we can convince everybody because it'll be like Concord, Bridge, except that do you have any working knowledge of what happened at Concord Bridge? How did these things, things develop? This event, what was the actual energy behind it? Again, the Concord Bridge. If you look on the map, guys, go find a map of the battlefield of Concord. Take a look at where the bridge is, and take a look at where Concord is, and ask yourself, what was the militia doing over on the other side of the bridge?
Real quick, Dad, as long as you don't hang on, this is an update for everybody. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. Bringing the station back up online right now. I'm going to walk to town, be back in a little bit, then everything should be up and running. It's just rebooting the system.
Okay, so Spike probably heard that. Everything's in motion. Go ahead, Dave, what else you got, please?
Yeah, the other issue I want to do is at 10 o'clock this morning, one of the manufacturers of a tobacco manufacturing company in Akwesasne was arrested by a federal judge. He went there to appear for a hearing, facing charges by the bat faggots, and he basically told them they had no jurisdiction. He refused to go to the bar. They had 2 court-appointed attorneys there waiting for him. He wouldn't accept them. Told he fired them on a minute. He had written papers ready to go. He served them a notice that they were fired. He revoked the signature and power of attorney. The judge kept demanding that he come to bar, and he finally said, I will not step aboard your ship. And he looked over at the bailiff, and the bailiff smiled and laughed and turned his head. He understood what was going on, and the judge continually tried to force him to grant jurisdiction. No, I do not wish counsel at this time. No, I cannot enter a plea. How can I enter a plea if I do not understand the nature of the cause, the charges? This guy had it down, and the judge says, I don't care what you want. I'm going to revoke your bond, and I'm going to throw you in jail. And they hauled him off to some other jail now. I think we finally found where he was at about noon, and we're still trying to see if we can't get him back out because they have no grounds by which to hold him, except maybe they're going to try to charge him with contempt. Well, he has nothing but contempt, so the judge can't charge him with that either because you can only charge if you have a controversy. And we agree. We have nothing but contempt for black robe devils, especially when the bat faggers are enforcing New York state law. Since when can the federal government come in and arrest a man for failure to buy a state license? And his business is not in the state of New York, it's on Indian land. Real question, ain't it? They're just getting downright belligerent in New York State that they want taxes, and they're going to take the taxes any way they're going to get to them. And this is the first of 15 tobacco companies now being threatened of arrest. Not a good situation. Except they've picked on the wrong 2 men at this point. We're not sure what's going to happen with his partner, but these 2 boys have been well trained, and they're not school boys when it comes to law, and they'll run circles around most attorneys. So the court's got a real problem ahead of it, a real problem. Just thought you'd like to know. The Indian chief, we've been trying to get out. They moved him to another location. He's somewheres now around Albany, and they are now in violation of the right of speedy trial. They have now held him for 179 days without trial, and the federal court says they don't care. He's just an Indian. Sad state, Mark. A sad state.
Actually, I think I would go so far as to actually construct the statements that way. Anything that's done as a filing, understanding that the court and these international institutions look at the individual as nothing more than an Indian.
Yeah, and
seriously, the verbiage of that kind incorporated always, and again, negative, because they will do everything in their power to always make it look like they got a smiley face while they're trying to force everybody to, take a taste of the little feces pie. So instead, it's like, oh, no, we understand exactly what this is about.
We had 8 witnesses in the courtroom, and this man stood his ground, did not go to bar, but the judge ordered, and the bailiffs or the U.S. Marshals came into the courtroom, and they were in sort of a huff, and they said, what you in a hurry for? Well, we just got notice 5 minutes ago that we needed to be down here in this courtroom. They didn't even know that the hearing wasn't even scheduled. The whole thing was a slam dunk. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. The judge and the attorneys had already made a deal. Here's the real problem. The 2 attorneys that were appointed by the court to represent these poor little Indians were sitting in the courtroom trying to beg him to come to bar. Where was the U.S. attorney? Oh, failure to prosecute timely. No U.S. attorney to prosecute. Who was prosecuting? The black-robed devil was prosecuting the case, practicing law from the bench. I think that's illegal.
And don't forget emphasis added.
Yes. In any case, how arrogant can you get? And the same thing with the chief. We went into that courtroom 2 months ago. U.S. attorney wasn't there. The judge was prosecuting the case. Unbelievable. They don't think that they have to follow the rules. Failure to prosecute timely, case dismissed. To try to get somebody to dismiss it. This case
so
goes...
Is the chief still in jail?
Yes, he's still in jail. They moved him to a new jail, and he has not booked in or signed in or nothing, but they're holding him in a new jail, and they cannot do so for more than 72 hours without a signature, and he does not have counsel and has not had counsel since 2 months ago when he fired everybody, that the court appointed him so conveniently so that they could get a plea on record because he wouldn't plea. So they appoint him an attorney. Attorney enters a plea. They say, you will accept the attorney, won't you?
Incredible.
No, don't want the attorney. It's understanding they have to get you to accept attorneys. There's 2 things they cannot do. They cannot arraign you, and they cannot sentence you if you're without representation, period. But they will find their way around arraignment. But I've never
They'll call you
seen
crazy, David. You know that.
Oh, absolutely.
They'll throw you into that 52 million crazy Americans. And by the way, that's the same number that Stalin said were crazy Russians. But they'll crazy Russians. They'll tell you he's a crazy person. He needs representation because it's obvious that he cannot represent himself. He's crazy.
Yep.
And along comes your coin-reported idiot. Yeah.
They said I was crazy, and I filed 7,000 pages in my defense. How many attorneys would ever do that? And gee, after 3 years of fighting idiots, I finally walked. Still haven't been convicted, but they kept me in prison for 704 days, 3 times state prison, not just county jail, without ever being tried or convicted, just because they said I was a dangerous man. Yeah, I guess so.
A whole bunch of men could be dangerous. You put them in a bad way.
Yeah, you give me a nice Colt Peacemaker, I can get to be real dangerous.
Oh, you get close enough to me with yours. You understand the difference, don't you?
If you step within 4 feet of me, I don't need a Peacemaker.
I'll take yours, yes.
We're all thinking on the same level,
Give me
guys.
Glock 19, and I'll kill 10 men in 3 seconds flat. How many can we make die? Give me a Glock 19. I'll kill 6 of them in 3 seconds flat. Guaranteed. It's a sad, and they don't understand what's going on. And, of course, the name Bob Spear means something, don't it, Don?
Elaborate, please.
Bob Spear, martial art instructor, just like our dear little friend, your sensei.
Okay.
And my sensei was Bob Spear.
Okay.
I was Bob's sparring partner numerous times. 6 Degree Dan in 3 different martial arts.
Yeah.
Not somebody.
It's fun when you start to play with masters. Yeah. It's fun.
Not somebody you want to mess around with.
Exactly.
Especially
the converse
when the guy
of that is,
6'4".
again, you guys, let me run this for a moment, Dave, because addressing the beginning of the hour, I had a Saturday class when I was training under Mr. Shima, and I would train children. And that was the most fun for me. That was just the most fun. Because you know what? Children don't know what they can't do.
And they're unpredictable.
Yeah. But again, they don't know what they can't do. Turn that foot just a little more. And they don't complain. That hurts. I've never done that before. So it's like working with a blank slate, you know? You can build a good patriot. You can build a good warrior right from the get-go. That was my favorite 3 hours, that Saturday morning, for years. That children's instruction that I had. What? I'm sorry. Forgive me. What?
Don, this is Sean in Seattle. I'm listening to you and Dave with intent. Dave, congratulations for bringing this out to the forefront and working to defend this guy who's been thrown in as a political prisoner. I think that the federales would be more concerned about your pencil versus your verbal jiu-jitsu, but obviously you're a master at both. It gives me great courage as a teacher to see people who are lifelong learners, such as yourself, applying common sense and trying to use what you've learned for good.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Sean.
No, thank you. I hope Bill's listening. Bill, you out there?
Yeah, we lost our volume. Hello?
Lost your volume.
You're actually quite clean.
I can't hardly hear Sean.
It may just be at your end because you're coming in loud and clear. Everybody's coming in loud and clear here. At least I can hear you through the room. You're sounding good, guys.
Yeah.
So don't worry about it.
I'm troubles hearing Sean, though.
Giving him a chance.
Sean's a little soft.
Well, I'm in the library at school.
Oh, okay. So you're being soft.
Ah.
Yeah, I'm being soft before
Very
I
good.
whip out my 8th degree black belt in verbal jiu-jitsu.
You know, it's fun though to go with masters and to spar with them because they don't make too many mistakes, and if you pay close attention, you can learn a lot that normally is not shown or taught.
Mark?
Oh, again, you're in an arena where people are trying to drag you to a better place, sometimes literally.
Quite well. In sparring with Bob, twice I beat the man in sparring, and both times he looked at me and he says, "Where did you learn to do that?"
Hey,
I didn't
Mark.
teach you. Who taught you how to do that?
Okay, I'll tell you what. Hold on. We get who do we have? Sean still?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Jump in there, please.
I was going to say yesterday Bill called in on Henry's show, and he put in a nice compliment for all the people who are working, such as yourself, for freedom. And it kind of inspired us. I called Dave up in New York, and I talked to him at length about the nice compliment from Bill and how Bill's a quiet warrior out there as well. And it is one action at a time where people are standing up fighting injustice out here. And I also heard in the conversation, you're part Menominee or Chippewa Indian?
Chippewa.
Okay. I'm
Mark's
part
Chippewa.
as well. Yeah.
Ottawa and Chippewa on the one side, yeah.
Okay. So we're all from the same
Yeah.
bloodline.
My grandmother's side, the family from up in the Thumb area of Michigan. In fact, let's see, from over towards Genesee County, the area that the family is connected to works around the bay and all the way up to Aranac County. That's where the property. That's where the properties are. The lands are.
You're not in the Slapaho tribe, are you?
The Slapaho tribe? That's in Detroit.
Don't.
Gotcha. Got you with a word bullet there, Don.
Okay, I'm sorry. I barely heard that. You're real soft on this end. I'm sorry.
Oh.
He's being a librarian right now is a problem, so he's having to be
I'm
quieter.
out in the hallway. I'm out in the hallway. I've already been kicked out of the library.
Oh, okay. Would you repeat, please?
Oh, I said those little kids can be dangerous when you teach them martial arts. They're so unpredictable.
Oh, yeah.
You'll tell them to chop you in the throat and they'll kick you in the nuts, and then they'll smile while you're going down.
Right. Look what I just did.
Bust in the elevator and give you a ride up and down all the way.
Yeah, my instructor, Don, taught me this.
And what's neat is little kids can get to kneecaps real easy.
Oh, yeah, other body parts.
Big man, go down.
My father found that out real quick.
Oh, there
one
is
night.
a vital point right there, yep. Kneecaps can be real good when you're trying to take something from someone's hands also. Combinations like that, you guys, instead of just working the leverage or the twist on the top, think of twisting the whole of it. The whole of your opponent, moving, as example, moving the left hand and right hand counterclockwise. If your opponent is facing you, you're moving, if you're trying to take a handgun, they have two hands on, think of moving that whole unit counterclockwise while you're stepping their left knee so their body turns clockwise.
Ouch.
Ouch. Yeah, you're going to get their gun. You're going to get them going in so many different directions. All you have to do is control their gun and not be part of their fall. Not be part of their fall.
That's Bob Spear's specialties, is the disarmament of an assailant, how to disarm somebody coming at you with a gun or with a knife and being able to successfully take it from them.
The one thing to think about in this instance is reaction time. You'll see magicians do goofy things. One example came up over the past weekend. The guy puts a $100 bill on the table and bets you $5 that he can hold his hand above your hand being about 10 inches above the table, his hand being about 4 inches above your hand, and he can grab that $100 bill before you can. His $100 bill. If he can grab his $100 bill before you, he'll take your $5. It's a reaction time thing. It's a simple physical trait that all humans exhibit. The gun that puts the bullet just past your ear as you move out of its way and move the gun too, don't just think that you can move out of the way of a gun. You have to be able to move the trajectory of the aim of the gun too. And when you can do both, what was that phrase that we've brought to the hour a number of times as of late? You greatly increase your probability of survival. That's a good thing.
Force multiplier.
Hey, Don.
Yeah.
You know, the thing is, back like 20 years ago in Florida, they watched, I think one of these famous musicians like David Copperfield claiming they can catch a bullet with their teeth.
Yeah.
Well, they tried it, and guess what?
A couple of people have died doing that trick. Yeah. Some people really try to do it with a good marksman's aim and a .22 and a steel cup in their mouth. And a number of people have died over. That's where you were going with that, right, George?
Yeah, it's more like also catching arrows with your bare hands.
Oh, I've seen people do that. That's tremendous. The hand-eye coordination to that is something to aspire to. But, you generally break an arrow. You can grab it in the air, but to have your hand move so fast through that arc that as the arrow moves past you, generally you break the arrow. But that takes guts just to try, even with a field point. There's things that push the human experience. You've heard me say that before. I've written that down a number of different ways. I'm a glutton for the experience. We're not supposed to be gluttonous. But we can drink deeply from this well of life that God gives us. Fill the cup up, drink it to the bottom. But I've seen that. I've seen two different people catch an arrow as it goes by. Both times they broke the arrow.
The greatest feat I've seen in my time of exploration was done by Joe Bowman and Sammy Davis Jr., the only two men I've ever known who capably were able to do it, was to take a Bowie knife, throw the Bowie knife at the target, draw the Colt peacemaker, fire, and the Bowie knife split the bullet hole.
Wow.
That's fast.
That's hand-eye coordination too, and to an extended ability, no question about it.
Being able to draw and fire so that bullet got at the target before that knife.
And we are at the top.
Your right hand drawing the gun with your right hand. Think of the speed there is in that. Because that knife, we have pretty good speed to get that bullet got there.
Oh yeah.
Sammy Davis Jr., he's only got one eye.
Sammy Davis Jr.
And how did he get the one eye?
Hey, John, you remember at the circus when you have the knife throwing when the body's spinning around like a wheel?
Yeah.
They throw the knives and they don't hit the person.
Right.
Every girl always wears leotards that are not see-through because that way you don't know how the training went.
Yeah, look at the scars. Look at there's the bandage there.
We're past the top, gentlemen.
Leotards are always the opaque kind.
Yep.
Flesh tone. But remember, they wear leotards.
That's a timing thing.
Yeah.
What you're looking at, gentlemen, is both of them, their reaction time is less than a half of a second. Most people's reaction time is 3/4 of a second. Way too slow in a gunfight.
Well, I'll tell you what we have to do, guys. We are at the top. I think Spike is probably, I don't know, maybe Spike's listening, but...
Yeah, I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Just a little past the top of the hour. So we're going to not take and drop anybody, but what we are going to do is go to the top of the hour break. If we
Don will exit.
You guys couldn't hear a word I was saying. I was talking to you guys the whole time. You couldn't hear me. I had my Skype muted.
I'm sorry.
I already closed out the top. I didn't give out the God Bless the Republic. You guys can go ahead and do that, and we'll restart this here because I totally blew that. I was sitting here talking to you guys.
God bless the Republic.
Death to the New World Order.
We shall prevail, ladies and gentlemen. The Empire is on the run.
But we are on the march, both day and night.
We'll be back in just a few minutes for the second hour of the Afternoon Intel Report. Indiana Freedom Talk Radio doing what it does very well, picking up the ball and running with it because, well, we had problems here in Michigan. So they're looking better. Power's back up. We'll see what happens here. But in the meantime, you stay tuned, and the next hour is coming up. Thank you, Don. Your number for Night Vision, please.
Hey, you can reach me at 231-796-8458. If you can't see in the dark and you want to, I like that line from Joe. The number's 231-796-8458. Thank you, Mark. God bless you. God bless you, America. Thank you, Mark.
You have to go?
Yeah.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, talk to you in a little while.
The sun will always shine on the old Liberty tree. It's a tall old tree and a strong old tree. And we are the sun, yes we are the sun.
A bureaucrat woke up one day with nothing much to do. He tried to put his street clothes on but couldn't find his shoes. The night before he tied one on, now cobwebs filled his head. By afternoon he called in sick and then went back to bed. The next day he felt shaky but he made it off to work and voted to increase his pay and take another perk. Although the people cried out loud and told him what to do, instead of trying to cut the cost, he increased revenue. Yippee-yi-yo!
Figure walked in through the mist with a flintlock in his hand. His clothes were torn and dirty as he stood there by my bed. He took off his three-cornered hat, and speaking low to me, he said, "We fought a revolution to secure our liberty. We wrote the Constitution as a shield from tyranny. For future generations, this legacy we gave. In this, the land of the free and home of the brave. The freedoms we secured for you, we hoped you'd always keep. But tyrants labored endlessly while your parents were asleep. Your freedom's gone, your courage lost, you're no more than a slave. In this, the land of the free and home of the brave. You buy permits to travel and permits to own a gun, permits to start a business or to build a place for one. On land that you believe you own, you pay a yearly rent, although you have no voice in saying how the money's spent. Your children must attend a school that doesn't educate, and your Christian values can't be taught according to the state. You read about the current news in a regulated press, and you pay a tax you do not owe to please the IRS. Your money is no longer made of silver nor of gold. You trade your wealth for paper so your life can be controlled. You pay for crimes that make our nation turn from God and shame. You've taken Satan's number. You've traded in your name. You've given government control to those who do you harm so they could burn down churches and seize the family farm and keep our country deep in debt. Put men of God in jail. Harass your fellow countrymen while corrupted courts prevail. Your public servants don't uphold the solemn oaths they've sworn. And your daughters visit doctors so their children won't be born. Your leaders send artillery and guns to foreign shores and send your sons to slaughter fighting other people's wars. Can you regain the freedoms for which we fought and died? Or don't you have the courage or the faith to stand with pride? And are there no more values for which you'll fight to save? Or do you wish your children to live in fear and be a slave? O sons of the Republic, arise, take a stand, defend the Constitution, the supreme law of the land. Preserve our great Republic and each God-given right. And pray to God to keep the torch of freedom burning bright. As I awoke, he'd vanished in the mist from whence he came. His words were true. We are not free, but we have ourselves to blame. For even now as tyrants trample each God-given right, we only watch and tremble, too afraid to stand and fight. If he stood by your bedside in a dream while you were asleep and wondered what remains of the freedoms he'd fought to keep, what would be your answer if he called out from the grave? Is this still the land of the free and home of the brave? God bless you, and God bless this republic.
And good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is the second hour of the afternoon Intelligence Report. I'm Mark Hernke.
I'm SpikeTimmons.
One day closer to victory for all of our brothers and sisters, both on and behind the lines at occupied territories, Central, West, Southeast, and East. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you were listening to us on Indiana Freedom Talk Radio. We're also on LibertyTreeRadio.4mg.com. We're on AM and FM micro stations, CB base stations. Good afternoon, channel 27 and 29, along with our backup station for test in greater northern Michigan, especially up there on Midland, Michigan. Good afternoon to you guys. We're also on Ultra Net Technologies east and west of the Mississippi, along with Alaska. We're in the Hallmark Network on Eastern Seaboard. From the top of Maine, where the black bears are out there. Today, it's Thursday, the city dump. They heard that special sound. And out came that girly bear perfume. That's right, the trash from the American Legion fish fry yesterday. He's out there, those little beady eyes staring out from underneath the tree canopy next to the dump. He waddles out there, gets that old shoulder in from the left and rubs in real good. Oh, fish fry grease. Then takes that other shoulder and rolls in and gets on his back, wiggles around a little more. He knows full well there ain't a girly bear for miles in all direction that can't smell him, and they know they can't resist him. Girly bear perfume. That's what the American Legion fish fry is all about. Well, then, all the way to the bottom of Florida, where the fiddler crabs are contemplating their belly buttons, if they had belly buttons, and chanting their mantra, und Yeleman, und Yeleman, und Yeleman. And meanwhile, the Legion's thinking about he will conquer the world, a carpet of fiddler crabs dancing across the beaches and the little bayou, little cave areas and coastal areas where the floodplain is in Florida. Across the arc of the Gulf of Mexico to Louisiana, where, again, the people of Mississippi, Texas, Nebraska, and our friends in Wyoming, to include both the 3rd, the 5th, and the Pit, our big truck drivers, are all concerned about what's going on in, well, Colorado, where the red light district prostitutes have sold out the state, and we now have a situation of civil war inside Colorado. The sheriffs and the people themselves will not cooperate with the swine, the Yahudi trash that are in Denver. But we all know about them, and everybody's watching that battle to see how it develops. Waving to the left coast, where Feinsteinism spews its filth and stench across the landscape, and the intestinal fortitude of patriots there is demonstrated constantly having to put up with it, we sweep across the plains, leap over the burgeoning banks of the Mississippi land and the Smokies, where the restaurant crews, grab teams, and OK teams bring us the Golden Spike, all across the Appalachians, the Smokies / the Ridge, the Big Smokies. Anyway, I'll tell you what, Spike, what is the date today, sir?
Today is Thursday, May 30th, year of our Lord 2013, and it's a beautiful day here in Allen County, Indiana. No A-10s flying over today, and it's about 83 degrees and very sunny and humid, so we might see some rain the next couple of days. But they keep saying that for the last 3 weeks. They go, it's going to rain tomorrow, and then it doesn't rain. They go, it's going to rain tomorrow, and then it doesn't rain. And then it's going to rain tomorrow, and it doesn't rain.
That's that weather service from Indonesia that manages most of the weather operations down in the United States. Remember, for 2 bowls of fish heads and rice a day and $2,000 a year, you can hire people to operate their scan systems from across the planet, where it means absolutely nothing and the witch doctor science doesn't work. When we want to know what the weather's not doing, we turn on the computer weather channel here that's through one of the services, and whatever it says, it's always the opposite. So we pretty well have a good measure. We just need to remember that incompetence reigns in the world of the international, and we should act accordingly.
Mark.
Yeah, we got George here. George, jump in there. What do you got?
I just say you're right about it being opposite. When they say 10% chance of rain, actually means 10% chance of sunshine.
Exactly, and vice versa. Snow all through the winter. Snow and cold, didn't get it. Snow and cold, didn't get it. Clear today, snow.
Well, Mark,
that was through the whole season, by the way.
They
Go
say
ahead.
there wouldn't be a chance of rain today. Mark, I learned little things. I learned when you walk outside, when it's muggy outside, you got no dew on the grass or on the car, you know it's going to rain.
Right. In fact, the basic rule is be a weather watcher. This is something we've talked about for the longest time, and I'll repeat it again, guys. The best weather service you have is your knowledge of the environment that you live in. As long as you pay attention, you're going to pretty well be able to, gauge the situation yourself and get really good at it. Mostly, again, it's feeling the moisture in the air. That is the highest part of the process in the program. So just, keep that in mind, knowing your, cyclic environmental conditions and then applying the working knowledge accordingly. You'll get the job done. Couple things. Go right ahead, please.
Well, I wanted to talk about, the first hour I just got off the phone. I was with the power company. They're trying to reason with me to put the smart meter on the side of the house. And they pretty much got the talking points on the health issues and the privacy issues. But I threw a curveball, Mark. I brought up the calibration laws in the state of Texas, saying there has to be a standard of calibration that these meters don't meet. And they didn't know how to take it.
Right, because, in fact, where's the certification stickers that are supposed to, and the constant inspection stickers, because remember, there's supposed to be a renewable inspection process, which, if you ever see anybody lift the lid on a pump in your area, you'll notice that the individual has to truly sign off on the inspection.
Well,
it cannot be electronic. It has to be a mechanical, physical confirmation of inspection.
Well, I just said that, the scales in the supermarket, the fuel pumps at the gas station, the X-ray machines, the breathalyzer for DUIs, that radar gun that gives the cops cancer of the testicles. They all have to be calibrated. Even the little scale in the doctor's office has to be certified calibrated. These smart meters do not meet the standard whatsoever. They say, oh, we don't have to worry about that calibration part. And it's like I'm saying, I'm looking at the law right here. These meters do not meet the standard.
And in fact, you're in Texas, so where was this criteria met? I would also, of course, it's a matter of, again, where you're going to carry this. So you're going into court on it?
Yeah, but I got to find someone who knows how to file. And somebody
actually, to find someone, I'll tell you what. Oh, come on, I don't have the library name right here in front of me. The one that's in Austin, I spoke at. There are a lot of good people that are there in Texas. I mean, you've got a lot of people across Texas that have worked pro se /pro per. So it shouldn't be that difficult to find. Any number of different bodies can assist with the filings. And in fact, I think they'd be highly motivated considering the argument that's being brought forward.
Well, they didn't know how to answer it. Customer service did not know how to answer those questions about calibration.
Well, I'll guarantee that it's actually being run through the machine right now, even as we speak, because they're going to be highly concerned about the idea that, this is something that they thought that they had probably bribed through, or that they figured nobody would consider. So it's a good thing that you brought it up. The thing is, it'd be interesting to see how it plays out at the state end, at the capital end. Because I guarantee this has probably already gone through through corporate at the power company end right off the bat, the moment you brought it up.
Like I said, but they still don't know how to answer it. They think they'll pull the wool over their eyes.
Well, they have to. The public pretender's office / the public relations office. They're going to be busy immediately if they're not. They have to be. I almost guarantee they're at it right now. Hell, you're not even giving them overtime. Well, they're probably going to get paid overtime. They're probably paid on retainers, so now they're PO'd because they actually have to work. Which,
but you think the calibration is the Achilles heel compared to the health hazards and the...
No, actually, you would combine it, because the reason for the inspection, if you read on in your law, has to do with the health hazard and safety issues. And the reason for that is, again, if you're going... First of all, it's a transmitter, right?
Yes.
It's a transmitter. So right off the bat, in fact, I would be willing to bet you can also go into not only certification laws, but also the very same laws that they use to restrict and do all kinds of damage to other stuff that we want to play with applies completely to their technology. Which is another reason that as a transceiver, especially an industrial transceiver with a specific output, it probably would have to be re-verified and recalibrated so that it doesn't interfere with other technologies. And that's under safety and health. Plus, again, what has already been raised from the health issue end has to do with the frequencies being used.
What about the privacy issues that they can...
Well, that's an attachment that, I won't call it an aside, but you can hammer them because of the bureaucracy in safety and health. That really is one that they've mapped out, and they've piled so much stuff into that arena that you have a lot of ammunition to work with, more so than you do even with the privacy issue. Of course, we don't know in the process what that thing works to pick up. Well, remember, everybody's talked about the alternate technologies tied into transceiver frequencies, certain frequencies, and we don't know what the whole mission. It's just like all the garbage that's under the dash in your car. 40 years ago, without a computer, we seem to have driven cars down the road quite successfully without any real greater series of collisions or incidents than today, when we have virtually 30 or 40 computers under the dash and under your arse, and we still seem to be having about the same number of collisions. So they didn't do anything for safety, but obviously something's being served, mostly spying. So I would look at the, you don't even have to bring it up from, quote-unquote, the paranoia issue. I would just, the safety and health issue tied into how are we going to recertify this to ensure that it hasn't slid off calibration, and it hasn't slid up or down. Because, you see, I'll also guarantee that it does. In fact, it almost has to, in order for it to be sending a reading signal out with as many different transceivers as there are in the system. They're splitting up. Now, understand this, that each one of these little transceivers is within a designated bandwidth, first of all. Within that designated bandwidth, each of these transceivers has to be able to slide into that band. So there are so many thousand units, say, in your community. Well, each one is sending out a signal. Now, granted, some may piggyback or override, and what they can do is they read in waves. But in order for them to get all of those to fit, they're, number one, digitally subdividing the bandwidth, but also they're probably sliding it. It can go up and down the bandwidth depending upon when they call for the signal, if it's cluttered with other activity. In other words, with the other transceivers activated. So I'll guarantee the thing is actually quite sloppy rather than a precision instrument.
Well, also, too, those meters could be hacked.
Well, that's the other half of the problem is somebody piddling with technology from more than one end. It can be hacked or they can be re-indexed by accident, supposedly. In other words, something else sends out a frequency or a harmonic frequency, and there's all kinds of... When you're in a city, what I said before about the Oklahoma City bombing, one of the reasons right off the bat you don't put electronic activating technology on a bomb or a device. You don't hook it up until you absolutely have to, because when you're in a city, there are so many cross-harmonic frequencies and signals going off, you're awash in them. And that, in and of itself, is just as likely to affect any of these open-band transceivers that they're using. So there's another problem, is you don't know what the hell, clicking back, clicking forward, rolling at high speed. You don't know what this stuff is doing. Oh, but again, remember, it'll always be your fault. You don't have the ability to go out and open up and adjust or do anything to that meter. But you'll be at fault for it, and they will tell you that the company can make no mistakes, and it's your fault, so you need to pay for whatever it is that they read. There's the problem. That's a mechanical meter, the way they had it, where, again, remember, they did that mechanical technology, they spent money to the nth degree, making sure that, for instance, it couldn't back meter because of people selling power back to the power company. They were so paranoid about that years ago. Now, most of them, they actually beat that, but there's a mishmash of older meters out there. Hell, they can't even re-index. They can't return. They can't roll back. But they can be accelerated, and these, if they're, depending on how many digital routines there are and tied into this, oh yeah, this thing could be doing all kinds of bizarre stuff. We've already heard about people getting $300 more in charges in a month without them having used or not even being there. No electricity used. In other words, they were on vacation or they're snowbirds and they weren't back up in Michigan yet, and they got a bill for $300 more per month. Because while they were away at the beginning of the winter, they put in the new meter, and it's like nobody was home. Heat didn't change. They know what their maintenance levels are. But all of a sudden, as of 1 month, everything went up by $300 a month. But nobody was there. And it was like they assumed that they could tag that based on probably prior readings, but they decided to go out to California. So they weren't there when they normally would be. Well, they just automatically ratcheted the bill up under the assumption that their yearly pattern would be the same as it had been for the 4 years before. And they did that with the electronic meter scam. So the other question is, with all the demographic information they have, are they going to, plug in and fabricate? With everything else has become dishonorable, why would we not expect them to be just as much of a bunch of shysters? In fact, more likely, because that's what these meters are all about. In reality, it's also getting rid of personnel. Obviously, most people don't realize the power company personnel already have a satellite tracking leash up their arse. Every minute, in fact, if they sit in one place because they're working on something, they're interfered with and get calls constantly. Why are you there? Why are you there? Are you still there? Why are you there? It should only take you 32 minutes or 28 minutes or 16 minutes to get that job done. And they have to call, they're being interfered with getting the job done. It's like, hey, fool. But they get tired of it, so they're like, it's entailing more work than expected. Something actually needs to be fixed, bonehead. But, of course, they have to be nice. But I've talked to the guys, right, in the system here. Everything is all this rat spy technology is already plugged into their vehicle. Behind the seat of every one of these energy trucks, there is a complete tracking system that is more extensive than anything you even have in your car, at least that they'll acknowledge. I think it's already there, but the government's using it from the other direction. And the reason I say that is because we already know which black boxes not even the maintenance people in the dealerships can touch. So what do they serve? What purpose do they serve? Well, they don't serve the car. They're serving somebody else. You see, so even the Edison, or the whatever you call down there, whatever your power company is, you already have these anal retentive control freaks out there bean counting to the nth degree, and letting the computer run the business. And I have no use for management like that. That means they can't manage and they don't know how. And they're not people oriented to begin with, so you can't trust them. They'll let the machine tell them what's supposed to happen because they don't have a clue themselves. They would be bra salesmen one minute, and they'll be presidents or managing the Edison company the next. But as soon as they muck that up because they don't know what they're doing, they're going to, like feces birds. They'll flip from one location to the next, mucking up the next operation and dragging everything down. That's what I see happening right now.
Mark, I want to get back to the calibration thing a little bit. Back like 3 months ago, a gas station owner got thrown in prison because he tampered with the calibration at the fuel pumps, where it was actually pumping 3/4 of a gallon in and charging a gallon.
Oh, yeah, that's been an issue. Remember, we've talked about diverse weights and measures for years, hasn't this? You used to see it in the old movies where the guy had the scale, and yes, I will trade you for the frankincense and the myrrh and for the other spices, and you will get a fair bag of whatever. Well, then you lift the weight over and you find out that, the shyster's been cheating you because the weights were, improperly scaled. They weren't the right measurement to begin with. And that's the kind of stuff that we've seen for as long as people have been involved. This is why I've talked about, the honorable system, what it is we're going to have to deal with, and how do we deal with that. There are biblical rules, there are biblical solutions that go back all the way into the depths of time, having to deal with this very issue. And now we're looking at much more sophisticated technologies. Remember, the more sophisticated and complicated, the easier it is for them to steal from any number of levels. And that's where, again, the thing about the power companies especially. Of course, I think the power company issue, there's two things. The massive infrastructure and grid, that's something that does need to be maintained. So we understand that part. But the other half of it has to do with efficiency, and technology means that they aren't getting as much from people. Everybody demanded efficiency. Well, now they're getting it. It's creating other problems for them. Everybody stay right where you are. We're going to go to the bottom of the hour break. It's the second hour, and it's going by fast here on Indiana Freedom Talk Radio and Liberty Tree Radio. We'll be back.
Plant the seed in our homeland, boys. Let it grow where all can see.
Iodine protection packs from hempusa.org are now in stock for immediate delivery worldwide. Our iodine protection packs include microplant powder, green life kelp, red palm oil, and our clear roll-on iodine that will feed the body the iodine it needs. All iodine protection packs are in stock. Save you money and ship for free in all 50 states. Visit hempusa.org or call 908-691-2608 today.
We all need to prepare ourselves. You might have the food, water, gold, and silver, but ask yourself, are you truly prepared? That's why you need to visit MaineMilitary.com. MaineMilitary.com carries everything you need. Gas masks, fire starter kits, high-capacity magazines, chemical suits, military surplus items, and much more. Do you own a firearm? MaineMilitary.com has a large selection of pistols and rifles suited for your needs. Are your local stores sold out of ammunition? Call or visit them today for prices on hard-to-find ammo and bulk ammo orders. You don't need to worry about having a military surplus store in your area because MaineMilitary.com is the only store you'll ever need, all from the comfort of your computer. Visit them online today at MaineMilitary.com. That's Maine, like the state, military.com.
Will be fought not on the frontier or on some distant battlefield, but amongst us. I will not fight. I will not cast a vote that will send others to fight in my stead. And your principles? I'm a parent. I never got the luxury of principles.
Do I wish this life to pass away? But life presents such possibilities each and every day. I heard a calling that was right for me. I prayed for strength for what's ahead of me. Show me the way. Please show me the way. The sun rose high and burnt the night away. Who stood before me was my enemy. The tread on me. He's come to take away my liberties. I'd rather die than be a slave to thee. Killed my brothers, they lay dead by me. We hit them hard, we made them pay that day. We hung the traitors from the highest tree.
It's a real pleasure. Before this war's over, I'm going to kill you. My way.
Lost a lot, our pain was heavy. Sacrifice for God and country. To help the ground that was in front of me. This was the price to pay for liberty. Do you hear me say? I'd rather die than be your slave. I will survive.
And we are back just after the bottom of the hour break here, a little later, but that's okay. And again, that was Poker Face, Rather Die Than Be Your Slave. Ethan, my youngest son, is one who put together the video that Poker Face used with pre-release imagery that we had. With everybody goes, well, yeah, you could get stuff about the Patriot through the internet. Well, that wasn't done that way, guys. This was actually pre-release footage before anybody had anything about the Patriot. And in reality, at the time, Visitor from the Past was, Rather Die Than Be Your Slave, not Visitor from the Past, Rather Die Than Be Your Slave was actually considered for the rock video for the Patriot. You know, everybody was doing a music video beforehand, and the music was perfect. It fits. You can see when you watch, the imagery fit the song, and the song fits the imagery. They're interlocked perfectly. They were built for each other. However, Sony of Uroni, you know, Sony, Standard Oil of New York, was the one that was doing the soundtrack and all the sound system support and had all of the control. And if the guys were going to do this, they had to sign over all of their music to Sony. Well, we've already seen this in the past where an artist will do that, and then they make it basically, depending on the contract, which, of course, you're trying to be careful with, they'll tell the musicians they can't play any of their music, and, in fact, they don't use the music. Let's say at the last minute they decide, oh, they're pro-Patriot. Oh, well, we have your contract, and we decided not to use your song. And, by the way, you also can't play your music because it's ours now. So the guys made a decision not to release, just automatically and without any question, release their music to Sony, because we know what has happened and transpired in the past. And they'll go, oh, they wouldn't do that. Oh, yes, they have, right up to the last minute. Again, talk to Steve Voss. His contract with RCA Records, his original album was jumping up through the charts. It took 30 days to go from entering the arena to achieving 16th in the top albums for the year, and it was booming. It was bouncing right through. It would have punched right through to number one. But RCA pulled his album because it was too pro-patriot, and it was too positive and patriotic in general. It was positive in its country music, but there weren't any tears in your beers and we're all going to die. Instead, it was all, focus on victory, focus on fighting, tradition, America, Americana. And for that reason, RCA pulled it, because you got to remember it was during the communist 90s. Now we still have the Soviet socialist aughts, and then the obviously open Soviet and Fabian socialist teens. So nothing has really changed that much. Soviet soft came in for a bit when they needed all of us to go out and kill Arabs for the ring knockers and the kosher mafia. Of course, then they turned around and now they've done the reverse. And again, where have all the war protesters gone? Where have all the hypocrites gone? The White House should be surrounded right now. Yeah, those hypocrites had no interest in stopping any war. They just want to be the ones to tell people who pull the trigger on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the reality. So I hate hypocrites like that. I really do, with a passion. I have no use for those pieces of trash whatsoever. But as it is, here we are. It is 2013. Poker Face is alive and well. The guys are actually on tour. Well, I've been doing a couple of different, as you would say in the industry, gigs in different locations. So if you want a band for an event, Poker Face, the boys are, the guys, young men, are still available. They have families. In fact, their children are learning to play instruments. Dudes, let's see, Poker Face 2.0, right?
Yep.
When the time comes. That's kind of cool.
That's the nice thing about being a musician and having kids, is you get to teach them and then watch them become better than you, because nobody taught you when you were 5.
Right. Look at all those little fingers going on those guitar strings, dude.
Yep. When I didn't understand what the guy was telling me, but years and years ago, when I was still, you're always learning how to play a guitar. You never completely learn. But when I was just getting started, a guy that was probably 30 years older than me was listening to me play, and I wasn't that good. I was just learning. And he's like, man, I wish I could do that when I'd only been playing the number of years that you've been playing. Man, just think how good you'll be able to play by the time you've been playing as long as me. And now I understand what he says. Because now I'm his age. And my kids are, they're already well-established musicians, can play guitar, bass, drums, all that stuff. And, Jimmy's doing something with it. He's going to go to college. But Randy, he just, they were in a couple different bands, but nothing ever really fleshed out, kind of like me. So, hey, you'll have that when you're in a small-town Indiana and not in big-time California where there's record producers and stuff like that.
But today we could actually be doing it ourselves. This is what we need to be working on. One of the things my middle brother John did for years, he's an instrumentalist. Like you're saying, you're working many different instruments, guys, so that you can literally step in from one piece of equipment to the next and do your part to make the music work. That's something that we really need to see all of our people doing, because we had this happen up here with Randy Craig, where he had to wait for artists to be available, for him to do his album, to put his album together. And they engineered it locally here with one of the companies. He paid for the studio time. The drummer came in from one band that was nationally known and, again, would play there. But he's actually played with other. I found out that more and more you're seeing this where somebody will not necessarily be working, especially if they're, background, where they will be flitting from one group to the next because somebody needs a vacation or a break. So for their tour, you'll have a guy from a totally different band, from a totally different part of the country, step in, run the drums for a while till the guy gets back off his 2 or 3 or 4 week break, and then plugs back in. And the other interesting thing about that, though, is that in many cases they're taking a break so they can go do a contract with somebody else in studio. So we need to be working that way, guys. We got a lot of people that are either already musicians or they're up-and-coming musicians, and we have the people to build things like this. We just need to get it focused. I'm seriously working with some guys right now. There's some complexes, warehouses that have been empty now for a while, and Patriot Wood is something that has been one of those ongoing things. I just dealt with some of our guys down towards Adrian as far as getting some other stuff moved in that direction. But we've got artists, we've got singers, we've got musicians, we've got singers, we've got actors and actresses. What we need to do is plug this in, and we need to really start hammering this. And I don't care if it is even top of the line. Come on, look at some of the stuff that's showing up on Netflix. Okay, it's the B movies. I've been watching some of these B movies. I said, guys, what we know, we could do a better job than that. And they actually had money for a budget. That's what's scary. Okay, so we need to start building that. That's something I just want to plant again as a seed. Even if we get into, and even while I'm saying this, people go, well, Mark, we're going to get into a war. Guys, in time of war, you have to become even more multidimensional. It's something you all better be thinking about. Life not only goes on, but it becomes more intense. There's a lot of more things that need to be done, and we'll be doing them ourselves. We're not going to won't be able to wait for somebody else to do it.
Mark.
Go ahead. Who we got there?
Yeah, it's George again. The thing is, my oldest son, Zachary, I couldn't learn the instrument. My life depended on it. My son picked up the banjo very easily. Learn how to play a banjo.
Yeah. Well, actually, if he can play the banjo, typically, again, some of the more traditional guitar, the multi-string, remember, there's more than just a standard acoustic guitar. There are some interesting variances out there in Spanish, and also, for instance, like the lute. Let's see, what would the other one?
Mandolin?
Any of the mandolin family, he should be able to handle that too. And I'd highly recommend he gets into that right away. That's a niche. Steel guitars and mandolin players are not as common as you would think. And it's a special skill that if you have it, you have the knack. That's one that you will go a long ways. You can pick your own business. You pick your own, business opportunities. Because I know guys, my dad was a mandolin player. He's 91 years old right now. But years ago, when he was playing mandolin, just like he's done all these different things because it was just something to pick up. But he actually was offered the opportunity to go on tour. Hey, we need a mandolin player. And nobody plays mandolin, or at least, well, people more often did back in the day. There were more people who were, from back in the 50s and 60s. And he goes out, I'll play with you guys when you're around here. And our whole family got into one instrument or another. We used to bring 40, 50 people together at a time. And back when I was young, and everybody would be singing, everybody would be, playing everything from organ to piano to guitar, violins, harmonica, accordion, trombone, trumpet, cornet, French horn, and everybody could pretty well cross-reference, cross-play stuff, which I think is fascinating. And of course, my brother, he grew up in all of that. My older brother, and back at the end of the Depression, because my older brother and sister, my two brothers and sister, the older three are like a completely separate family in many ways, in that they grew up at the edge of the beginning of the Depression, or forgive me, the end of the Depression.
Well,
so
my youngest son next year, he's going to be marching in a bagpipe formation. They're coming up with their own bagpipe.
Oh God, there's nothing worse than being in a bagpipe band as far as trying to keep step with some of the stuff they play, especially since the drummers don't necessarily keep a regular beat, lad. Bloody hell. Plus, who's killing the cat? No, we're squeezing the dog to death.
But my son wants to learn how to play the bagpipes.
Well, unfortunately, we lost one of our bagpipe players here a few years ago, who could give you some tips, and he'd done that since the reenactment days of the Civil War, 100-year anniversary back in the '60s. In fact, I think his pipes are hung up now. I don't think his boys picked it up.
Well, there is a bugle on eBay, a World War II bugle back from the color guard, and right now it's like priced at $300. It's like standard. The starting bid is at $300.
I would look around, George, before you spend that kind of money. Seriously, I've gotten trumpets and I've gotten bugles, military bugles. In fact, the last couple, I just was using one the other day on the coyotes out here, because they give it the hunting sound, just make weird noise they've never heard. You can find a really nice bugles out there for a lot less if you look around locally. Look around locally. A lot of people don't know what to do with them anymore. They don't know what, well, it's neat to have on the wall maybe. How about a curio? So go to some of these resale shops first. Start looking around locally. You'd be amazed at what you can find, and you'll end up with a better buy, plus you can afford other instruments rather than spending $300 on one.
Well, the thing is, I read a report like five years ago. They're saying nobody knows how to play the bugle in the color guard anymore. They have a digital bugle now.
Well, part of that is, again, there's two things that happened with that. When I was starting to do funerals back in the 70s, the World War I veterans came to us, and that's why I set up and even World War II vets were getting, they were still up there in years for a lot of them. People forget a lot of the guys that fought World War II had been career soldiers, so they'd already been 20 years in service. Then they survived World War II, and a lot of them went into Korea. The reason they came to us is because they needed men who, A, could pick up the casket, and the other half of it was trying to find trumpeters, buglers. Had no problem with finding people who could put the rifle to their shoulder because they switched over to the M16, and it was, lighter, and they strip it down and, use it for blank firing. But trumpeters at the time, I was able to find a handful. One of them was a woman, and the other two were guys, and we would tag team. And the toughest thing to do is trumpeting during the winter up here. I mean, that bugle is pretty cold when you bring it to your lips, guys. And a cold weather ceremony is tough on everybody. But we would, endure that. And again, the vets, the World War I vets would still put their hand to the casket or their shoulder to the casket. But our job was to make sure that, again, we balanced that out so we take the weight and they would be there for the ceremony. And that happened quite a bit. Well, we buried a lot of World War I vets. Quite a few. I remember I would be the officer in charge of the detail and present the flag. So, yeah, it's one of those things where, again, this is part of the traditions lost that we in the militia need to bring back to our country. It's part of what I've talked about with regard to heraldry and tradition and ceremony. and there is a purpose for it. And it brings us to a higher point. And it is part of our spirituality. I don't care what anybody says. It's part of what we've lost in general, guys. It's what needs to be it's going to have to be rebuilt by us. Everybody is so busy, worshiping garbage that's so far away. It has absolutely nothing to do with our society, has nothing to do with our history, and it's why our country is in the trouble it's in. It's why you see Europe in the trouble it's in right now. Because you've got all these alien cultures that have no interest in your traditions, your history. Everybody thought somebody else was going to take care of it. Well, guess what? It didn't happen. And, we were used to, here's the other problem we're used to, and I'll say this because I've watched it myself. We had great men who carried so much weight in the Patriot movement here in Michigan that they would step in no matter what and no matter how bad they felt. And I remember this years ago, not that long ago, but several years ago, we would ask for, hey guys, volunteers. And everybody would hesitate because they knew that these guys who were, 70 and 80 years old would always put their hand up and they would step in. And I appreciate it, George, but, not you, George, but our other George, another George. I said, George, no, you're not. I said, these other people are also, everybody else standing here, you all have the same amount of time George has, but George has put 40 years into this movement. And for George to step up and even just, I won't say it was menial, but, the idea that, hey, let George do it. Let Fred do it. Let Mark do it. Let Hal do it. We're all these people, if they all stepped in, 15 minutes and we're out of here and done. And that's something that I've watched. That's the problem with institutions and mechanisms, is that everybody figures that other guy is going to make sure the flags are there. That other guy is going to take care of the trumpet. That other guy is going to take care of fill in the blank, whatever it is. Whereas everybody should be participant. Now let me qualify that with something else. When we built the Michigan Wolverine Corps, and Norm Olson was one of many militia brigades that came up and online. Norm Olson was also not the first Wolverine Militia Corps state commander. He was one of several. And in fact, when the state guidelines were being put together, and we sat down for many, many nights till 3 in the morning. You got to remember, we were still doing radio. I was working during the day, had to work 8 hours a day. Get off work, immediately go to do radio. I had one program people asked us to do right after work. So I'd get out of work. I would be eating in the car. I would go do the radio program. Then I'd have 2 hours off where we'd be answering telephone calls. We'd have mail bags that were the size of duffel bags, guys. And there'd be 2 mail bags a day, and I'd have to go through mail every day. If you didn't do it every day, you wouldn't get through the mail, and we usually didn't get through it until about 1 or 2 in the morning, and then I have to start the work cycle over again. But in addition to that, we were sitting down in these meetings that would start sometimes as soon as you'd hear me off the air on radio where we do shortwave, we'd be right off the air. I'd walk out of the booth, and we would have people from all over the state right there, and their meeting would already be in motion. Or I'd have to drive from wherever we were to wherever the meeting was taking place. And we would spend till 1, 2, 3, 4 in the morning going over how do we make what kind of system do we want to govern and operate a state militia unit like this. And one of the things that I argued and initially was embraced was the idea that we don't want one person in the state command. And my argument is exactly what I brought up here just a minute ago. One person will be expected to do everything. Everybody will get comfortable with one person doing all the work. Nobody else will learn. And the most important thing is we're building a core, which means that every 6 months, the reason, and everybody else agreed too, they were also worried about entrenchment. Every 6 months, all the brigade commanders from all the counties had to meet physically, not this computer BS. If you can't get your dead arse up out of a chair and get to one location every 6 months, you have no business doing what you're doing anyway. But get to one location, a state meeting would take place, everybody would come together, all of them would have to face off with each other, use Robert's rules for the meeting when it finally comes to order, and they would confirm or deny the command. Now, if they felt there was a need for change, and typically, again, my original argument was, even if they didn't, that there should be a rotation and that every year there should be a new state commander, at least every year, and ideally every 6 months. And the reason for changing the state commander is so that more people gained management experience in the higher constructions of a military force. Because it's one thing to manage a squad. It's another thing to manage a platoon. It's another thing to manage a company. But we're talking about across the state. And everybody brought up this Hutari thing the other day. We're at the top of the hour, or the Hutari thing when it happened. People, in radio, you get immediate gratification. In television even, you get immediate gratification. But the reality of moving a combat force over hundreds of miles from all points of the compass, it's like I said, try to move a 100-man company tactically 10 yards apart from each other. You'll find out about the real world and what time is when you get off the movie syndrome and the television series, syndrome, and back to the real world where everything takes time. Motion, distance are all reality again, not the BS of the fabrication and time compression that make up movies. It's a very different world altogether. The same is true with management, guys. We need to have participation in a much more integrated way, and everybody needs, if they want that management thing, there's a responsibility issue that's tied in with it that a lot of people don't like because the R word is attached. It's like the W word is too. It's called work. Anyway, all the way from musicians to the militia. Well, they are integrated. Both of them are tied in. George, look around for a trumpet locally. You'd be better off doing it that way, and even if you have to clean it up a little bit, you'll find you get a better arrangement. Might be an old Boy Scout trumpet. Might be an old militia trumpet from an army unit. Who knows? God bless the Republic.
Death to the New World Order.
We shall prevail, ladies and gentlemen. The Empire is on the run.
And we're on the march, both day and night.
Thank you, gentlemen. Guys, Spike's taking over here, driving a nail through the forehead of the New World Order. Indiana Freedom Talk Radio continues. Liberty Tree Radio beside it. We'll be back at 8 o'clock with Don and Mark Evening Intel Report. You guys keep it up. Bye-bye.
Night, Mark. Ed's going to be taking over here after the top of the hour from Liberty Tree Radio. So Live 365 is back up and running. Y'all have a good night, and I'll be right back with my program, Hammering the New World Order, after this. So y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back with more live programming here on Liberty Tree Radio and Indiana Freedom Talk Radio.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Folks, greetings once again, and welcome to Hammering the New World Order with SpikeTimmons Live. I'm your host, SpikeTimmons, and I'm here live tonight, of course, jamming away here. Oh, we are coming to you live on Thursday, May 30th, year of our Lord, 2013, and that was Pokerface bringing us in there. Pokerface.com, pokerface.com. Get on over there and get you some Pokerface at pokerface.com. Like we're a little bit hot there tonight. Gotta have my levels up a little bit when I'm doing the network, so that'll bring it down just a little bit there. Won't blow everybody out of the box. There we go. Alright, we're a little bit better back to normal there. Anyway, you are listening to us on libertytreeradio.4mg.com. That's libertytreeradio.4mg.com. libertytreeradio.4mg.com. We're also on IndianaFreedomTalkRadio.co.nr. That's IndianaFreedomTalkRadio.co.nr. We're also on Live365.com. Once you're there, type Liberty Tree Radio in the search engine and you will find the listener button. We'll pop right up there for you on the screen. Hit that button and it'll start playing for you right there in your browser without any problem at all. We're also on AM, FM, and CD base stations all across the country, like 107.5 down there in Greenville, North Carolina, 89.5 out in Chiloquin, Oregon, and 88.7 over there in Meadville, Pennsylvania. A big hoorah goes out to all the short rangers and all the hard work they do to keep their stations up and running. I know, it ain't easy. We're also on the Alternate and the Hallmark Network from east to west, north to south, sea to shining sea, all across the amber waves of grain to the Purple Mountains Majesty there in the Pennsylvania, Ohio area, where they're going to put that golden spike in the ground and bring us the alternative to the internet. And a big hoorah goes out to the restaurant teams, the OK teams, the Grandma Crew, the Ma Bell Consortium, and all those other folks out there doing their hard work to put in the alternative to the internet. Now, big hoorah. And also one goes out to Harry Link there at truthbroadcastnetwork.com for putting us up. That's truthbroadcastnetwork.com, 24 hours a day, live streaming broadcasting, internet video. You can get on over there and check that out, truthbroadcastnetwork.com, and they're rebroadcasting my channel from livestream.com/HTNWO. That's livestream.com/HTNWO. And that's where the chat room is as well. You can get in there, or you can go to Liberty Tree Radio and get in their chat room by clicking on, going to libertytreeradio.4mg.com, and at the top of the page, click on chat room. And on the next page, if you've got the right stuff installed in your browser, you'll see a little Java window thingy. Put your name in there, and in the window below that, it'll say room. You put in # and Liberty Tree Radio, all one word, and it'll get you right in the Liberty Tree Radio chat room. And I still don't have that accomplished yet, I know. I got to figure out where I'm going to plug in, and I've only got so many outlets in this room, and I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to do this, because I think I have a microphone stand coming, and some other things, other equipment that'll be coming back online that I was missing previously. It's going to take a little bit longer than I expected, because yesterday I had a little technical difficulty here with the mouse not wanting to function properly anymore. I don't know what the hell's wrong with it. It just died. It was working fine when I used it yesterday morning, but when I came home from work, nobody'd been around unless the cat and the dog have been over here playing with the broadcast computer. Maybe they had their own little morning jam going. I don't know. I wasn't here. I was working. But anyhow, now the mouse doesn't work, so I was running around here trying to find another mouse that actually worked. And I found one that almost worked, but had a short in it, so I've got it rubber banded so that the cord will stay in one place, and it works. But it works for now, but I still need some other equipment before I can bring another computer back up and online, because I'm missing a keyboard and a mouse now. So, anyway, I heard some callers come in there. Who do we have? What have you got?
Spike, this is Dave.
Hey, Dave, what's happening?
Your sound is fine here on the phone line. However, over the broadcast, you're soft. You went down a little too far with your volume.
Okay, well, that's not a problem. We can bring her back up there a little bit.
Yeah, because I turned this thing way up, and it's really difficult to get a signal.
All right, well, I turned my level back up some there, so that should be better.
I'll check it and see.
Let's see here. We'll check some of the other settings here, because I have to change a few of them to get into to get it to broadcast correctly. Yeah, everything looks right. Okay, that should be fine. Ed will let me know if it's coming through on his end wrong. He's sitting right there, I'm pretty sure. But anyway, I heard another caller come in. If you guys want to come in, hit your *6, unmute yourself, and chime in at any time that you would like to. If you got something to bring up, give it a holler. Just shout out, and we'll get you up here on the air with your stuff. Let's see here. I really didn't have time to look at a whole lot, because I got home and got my errands ran and sat down and went down and started to make myself a bowl of noodles. And when I came back with my supper, the network wasn't playing Henry anymore, and I went, wait a minute, something ain't right. So I picked up my phone, and yep, I had missed a few calls, and Ed was one of them. So I knew I was on. It was time to put on the dancing shoes and do a little tap dancing. But I love that. It's the rush. Ed knows what I'm talking about. Somebody throws you the ball. Hey, here's a hot potato. Here, you take it. I love that. And anyway, let's go look at some stuff here at over on Blacklisted News. This one caught my eye. It's the second one down at blacklistednews.com. The source is RT, and it says three-dimensional 3D printers are quickly proving to be capable of creating just about anything out of little more than thin air, and that could be the military's key to keeping endless arsenal of drones at its disposal. Just as 3D printed organs, pizza, and even firearms are being made with the postmodern machinery, the United States military is eyeing the up-and-coming technology as to further their upper hand on the battlefield. Recently, a decorated member of the U.S. Navy made an argument for adding unmanned aerial vehicles and even munitions to the list of items that can be made with little more than a well-equipped printer and a few clicks of a mouse. Hobbyists and engineering students have already toyed with the idea of using 3D printers to make unmanned aerial vehicles or drones, but the Navy could piggyback on that idea to ensure that UAVs made to withstand military operations are soon a reality. In an article published this month in the Armed Forces Journal, Lieutenant Commander Michael Lenza discussed what could be next in the works for the Navy. For the Navy, the technology promises to shift inventory from the physical world to the digital one. Lenza wrote, instead of actual parts, a ship might carry a 3D printer and bags of various powdered ingredients and simply download the design files needed to print items as necessary. What kind of items? According to Lenza, just about anything. Today's printers are generally limited to printing parts made of just one material, and variance is a big issue, he said, but the development of multiple material devices is well underway, and the technology is racing ahead. Lenza went on to cite recent stories where college students at the University of Virginia printed a UAV that was controlled by a handheld smartphone. Scientists are still working out the kinks with that technology, but it's expected to only be a short while before drones done entirely using digital blueprints, a printer, and a moldable polymer or plastic soar through the sky. The eventual goal is a drone that flies right out of the printer with electronics and motive power already in place. Heavy metal, dude. No, that's heavy plastic. Lenza wrote. Soon enough, he said, the Navy could likely harness that into something fit for the world's most powerful military. I would say if they could start doing it out of metal, if they could get the metal, the powdered metal or whatever it would take to do that, then that would be very interesting. Yeah, that would be kind of neat to be able to print your own parts if you were out on the ocean and you needed a part for your boat, for your ship, you know, in the Navy. You download the blueprints, print it up, and hook it up, man. Or you could do that at home if you needed a part for your car. You had a 3D printer and the right equipment, you could download the blueprint, fire that part off, and hey, you just got a brand new part for your car. How about that? That'd be pretty neat.
Spike?
Yes, go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention I put this out a few days ago. I don't know. I thought maybe somebody would ship it over to you. But BBC 2.5 weeks ago, the weekend, Friday night into Saturday, it went out at 2:13 Pacific, and it was a 2-part package. It only went once. Excuse me. It was Cody Wilson, Defense Distributed, and they didn't say .com, .net, .org, whatever. Defense Distributed. And he had apparently been successful in producing parts with a combination of milk bottle, literally milk bottle dust, or Coke bottle dust.
I remember hearing about that now.
I'm sorry?
I do remember hearing about that.
Yeah. Like I say, it only went once. You might look up Cody Wilson, Defense Distributed, .com, .org, .net, but it was laser origami for the folded and rounded edges and that. It was a parallel story, and the lady involved in it was Mueller. I don't know whether that was M-U-L-L-E-R or M-E-U-L-L-E-R, but it was the German Republic, I believe, out of the German Republic. And I believe, considering how hollowed out our industrial is presently, since your grandparents purchased all of that equipment on the shelf, materials as well as systems out of World War I and World War II, it really might be worthwhile, ARPA-DARPA defense conversion, and that is dual application. So many people forget that aspect of it. Would be a way of rebuilding the infrastructure of this country too sweet, if not quickly.
Hey, Bill.
But it's... Yes, sir.
I've got that website.
You do? Good for you.
It is DEFDIST.org.
Hold it. I'm grabbing a pen here.
Okay, I'll repeat it a few more times for you.
Go ahead.
Okay, it's Delta, Elroy, Fidel, Delta, Istanbul, Sierra, Tango. .org. I don't know what the hell those things are. I don't know some of the phonetic ones. Indigo, or something like that. I got to laugh out of somebody there.
Deftech.org. DEFDECT.
Oh, DIST. DefDist. Sierra Tango.
One last time, real slow. I apologize.
Oh, that's okay. No problem. Everybody out there needs to get it. DEFDIST.org.
Wow. Maybe is there an attached article on Cody Wilson there?
It says watch the video, spread the word, but it doesn't say necessarily anything about him. There's a bunch of stuff across the top, and it looks like a blog here. Yeah, it's actually got the thing right here on the page. We got a, I don't think it has his name, but it's, there's another one here on the side that says printablegun.com. So,
there it is.
And you can follow it on Tumblr. It says Fox DHS demo. And there's a bunch of stuff on down through here.
Wow. Wow. Well, I wonder if I can get my secretary to burn a copy of that. It's really difficult by position and time, as late as it is in that. Let me get it back again. You saying that it... I'm sorry, I have an ear infection recurrently,
that's okay.
So I'm having a hard time copying anything anymore. Delta, Edward, Frank?
Yes, sir.
Delta, Edward, Charlie, T, as in Tom, .org.
No, I'll say it for you one more time. You almost got her. Delta, Echo, Frank, Delta, Indigo, Sierra, Tango.
ICT.
IST. S is in Sam, yeah.
.org.
Yep, defdist.org.
Good enough.
It's real easy. David, Edward, Frank, David, Ida, Sam, Thomas.
Got it. Got it. I'll see if I can't get our secretary, Sir David, to get me a copy of that. There should be a reloader on this broadcast at one time or another that's looking to go into the business, and there's a possibility there's a workshop that'll come along with that whole entire thing. If we're on time, I'd like to be able to take that over and run it. The owner to take a look at this and see the possibility of a shared interest property. So I'll definitely act on this immediately. But is there anything on the laser origami, Germany?
I
It was
didn't
on
see
BBC, like I said.
I didn't see that on that page. But
No,
there is...
it was a completely separate discussion. It was part of the story, but it was laser origami. Origami is the Japanese science of folded and artistically wrapped paper in an art form. And I assume that's why it got the tag, but it was Germany.
This one,
I assume West Germany.
I'm looking at a couple different ones here. It says laser origami, laser cutting 3D objects. Another one here is Stephanie Mueller, laser origami.
Stephanie. There you go.
So that's
yeah,
the
if
one.
you can make sure that the colonel has this with his in-depth knowledge, understanding, and appreciation of the metallic manufacturing, the implications would be really evident. I don't know whether you copied our conversation from the day before last in the afternoon, like we're talking now. I mentioned the sterile landfills. Basically 55-gallon drums, or the stretch drums that the colonel was mentioning yesterday, with the storage of World War I and World War II military items that were buried in the ground. I grew up across the road from our harp here up in Alaska in the Copper Valley. That whole area is peppered with burial sites. But they have such a thing as sterile landfills. And what they do is they put the glazed, honed byproducts of the baghouse. It's a large vacuuming design for the manufacturing floor. Lockheed, Boeing, whoever. They run lasers across the surface to hone and trim and clean the surface down to a polished level that then they put a Teflon coat on. That Teflon allows the craft to slip through the air that much more efficiently. But that Kevlar is in a nanoparticle. And if you design your negative cavity molds tight enough, and you put an extremely high vacuum across that negative cavity mold, and then dump your powder in, there's a combination of argon and some other rare gases, usually National Argon Lab level, but you can get them from common gas sources at an industrial shop, and you vacuum that in, you fire it with a DC, and the DC compresses, along with those gases, that product, that Kevlar, that Delran, into an object that is twice as light, if not 10 times as light, as the metallic, and 100 times stronger than steel.
Oh, wow. That sounds pretty good.
Yeah. Negative pressure cavity molding. Negative pressure cavity molding. And you use a DC charge to fire across it. You'll find it in ARPA-DARPA Defense Conversion, probably under Department of Defense or Defense Energy. Collateralize it with National Argon Labs, and you'll have the firing gas ratios and mixtures. You hook up your bottles, hook up your vacuum, and you've got a part, or a whole assembly, if not a barrel. I saw the 50 caliber. I saw the 50 caliber with a titanium twist tube, and a kid could carry it, let alone myself. Of course, it would be the propellants to project the projectiles, but then again, considering the technology that our grandfathers and mothers left us, a lot of it's on the shelf already.
Yep, I was thinking about
I would suggest
the 3D printing of bullet casings too, and shells. If we can get it to work, that'd be great.
Well, it would seem to me that the very first interest of everybody who's really serious about taking the creative genius that our Heavenly Father Yah has left to us to set us free. It's a terrible thing to consider that we have to go back to the sword to restrain an out-of-control, quote-unquote, government. But then again, Grandma and Grandpa were so sick and tired of being sick and tired of war, they weren't about to rock the boat in their time. And unfortunately, it's left to us, the new generation of the forerunners, the patriots of this time, to try to do our very best to bring the technology that is already available. That would be Deming's discussion, Dr. Edwards Deming. If you're not familiar with him, you should immediately become very familiar with getting his message out. In the darkest days of World War II, he was a systemicist, a statistician. He basically pulled the intelligence community out of its own anus and basically saved the Pacific perimeter and incorporated some very innovative, creative management styles that still somewhat exist today. They've been corrupted and they've been attacked from within, considering the enemy, but nonetheless they're still there.
Well, Bill,
but it's sterile landfills. You have them over there.
You stay right where you're at, Bill.
Landfills.
We're down at the bottom of the hour. We'll bring this up, pick this up on the other side. When we come back, we're going to slide through the bottom here. And we'll be right back after these messages, after our sponsors here on Liberty Tree Radio. Y'all stay tuned.
Iodine protection packs from hempusa.org are now in stock for immediate delivery worldwide. Our iodine protection packs include microplant powder, green life kelp, red palm oil, and our clear roll-on iodine that will feed the body the iodine it needs. All iodine protection packs are in stock. Save you money and ship for free in all 50 states. Visit hempusa.org or call 908-691-2608 today.
We all need to prepare ourselves. You might have the food, water, gold, and silver, but ask yourself, are you truly prepared? That's why you need to visit MaineMilitary.com. MaineMilitary.com carries everything you need. Gas masks, wool blankets, fire starter kits, high-capacity magazines, chemical suits, military surplus items, and much more. Do you own a firearm? MaineMilitary.com has a large selection of pistols and rifles suited for your needs. Are your local stores sold out of ammunition? Call or visit them today for prices on hard-to-find ammo and bulk ammo orders. You don't need to worry about having a military surplus store in your area because MaineMilitary.com is the only store you'll ever need, all from the comfort of your computer. Visit them online today at MaineMilitary.com. That's Maine, like the state, military.com. Or call them at 1-877-608-0179. That's 1-877-608-0179.
Back to Basics, a clinical reference guide for nursing students by Daniel D. Dans, now available at Amazon.com. The book includes laboratory tests with over 60 basic lab tests, which includes normal values, significance of the test, and what causes low and high values. The chapter on checkoffs includes 29 basic skills that a nursing student must become familiar with before starting their clinicals. The chapter on assessments will help the student to choose the right words and or phrases to improve their documenting skills. The chapter on medications covers over 125 medications with information about insulin, patient rights, a drug index for quick reference which includes generic and trade names, medical terms, medication classification, common uses for the medication, the action of the medication, nursing implications, and additional notes of importance on the medications. There are drug and herb interaction charts, food and drug interaction charts, patient checklists, medical math equations for practice, IV flow rates, and a poem called There Is Always Hope. Back to Basics, a clinical reference guide for nursing students, is a softcover book with 118 pages jam-packed with information the student nurse will need during their clinical. The cost is $30 plus shipping and handling, and it is now available at Amazon.com. The ISBN number is 978-0615-55987-2.
When a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce the people under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security.
Once again, the Republic is calling on its sons and daughters to unite. Join the revolution Friday at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time at the Militia Town Hall meeting with Ed the AK-47 on LibertyTreeRadio.4mg.com, PBN.4mg.com, Live 365 in the Hallmark Network. Add your voice to the discussion by calling in on the new conference line at 712-432-0900. Then enter 957-464 and the pound sign. That's the Militia Town Hall meeting every Friday at 7 on LibertyTreeRadio.4mg.com, PBN.4mg.com, Live 365 in the Hallmark Network. For more information, go to LibertyTreeRadio.4mg.com.
Coming back here with more Hammer in the New World Order here on Liberty Tree Radio. Little Pink Floyd bringing us back in there. Rage Against the Machine taking us out. Rally around the family with a pocket full of shells. But anyway, we were talking with Bill there about some different technologies and stuff going on. And brings to mind if you can do all that stuff and you could actually print up some stuff like that, how long would it be before they could actually print up something like what we saw in Terminator, a cyborg, heavy metal body alloy with a living exoskeleton? Get to the chopper now. I mean, just how long is it going to be before we start finding robots walking around with a living skin on the outside of them, being printed up by 3D machines? Huh. Very interesting idea, but I don't think that'll happen for quite a while. But that's something that's down the road, looking at this kind of technology, because that's about where it leads to. You able to print a pizza and eat it from powdered ingredients? Yummy. I bet that tastes good. Oh, it would only be as good as the powdered ingredients you put in it. And let's see. Remember Soylent Green? Yeah, Soylent Green. Don't eat Soylent Green. It's made of people. How long will it be before they start trying to print people? Yeah, well, to do that, you would have to have powdered people, wouldn't you? Oh, not a good thought. I know, we could take all these people that think the world is a small place and there's too many people on the planet, and we could say, okay, you first. You will be one of the first people to volunteer to be powdered people so we can try and print a 3D human. But we won't really. We'll just tell them that. They won't know any different until afterwards. They'll be gone, and we won't have to worry about them anymore, causing any more problems. So we know how they like to throw monkey wrenches into things here and there. But anyway, yes, that looking at this here, that'd be something to download maybe and change over into the right format to play the video. I could try it, but I don't want to lock up live stream. We're having a smooth deal right now, so we won't mess with that. Like I said, I could try, but it says here over at the website there, where that, let's see here, where I lost it. I just have to type it back in. .org, deafdist.org, and we'll go to their blog. And there's also a video there. Wonder what'll happen. Let's see if it'll lock it up. It's 7:38. Nah, that's a little too early to try and lock up live stream now. Oh, but there is a video there. I wonder how long it is. 30 seconds. And it fires the gun. You're all wishing you could see that, huh? Well, if you go to deafdist.org and you click on blog, it'll take you to that 30-second video of it firing over and over again and at night. So let's try this here. I'm going to show the screen. Hopefully it won't freeze up. We'll play it again. It's only 30 seconds. There we go. We're going to try some effects here. Ah. Ah, 3D. Ah. There we go. Cool. Hardly any muzzle flash. Isn't that good? Isn't that fun? Oh, I didn't want to play it again. Let's get rid of that. There we go. So, that's what that looked like firing. That looked pretty cool. Doesn't look like a gun, that's for sure. It looks like a piece of plastic with a barrel sticking out of the end of it. And if you didn't know it was a gun, you might think it was a camera. Except for the trigger and the trigger guard and the the trigger assembly thingy there. That kind of gives it away, but other than that, you can't really look at it and tell that it's a gun or a pistol or whatever you want to call it. It looks like it might be a camera, especially with the string that's attached to the trigger, because they have it benched, and there's a string attached to the trigger there. You can go watch that video and see it. That kind of makes it look like a camera, but it's got 3 rivets in it, or screws maybe. Yeah, I think those are screws, and a barrel sticking out. Looks like part of a gun, but it doesn't look like a whole gun. There's still some other stuff that could be added to this, of course. That's I'm taking it that would be like the receiver of a pistol. You know, just the basic trigger mechanism and firing mechanism in there, doing its job, all made of plastic. I don't know what kind of rounds they're using in that, but yeah, that's pretty good looking idea right there. And we'll see about the laser origami at another date. Maybe we can get that down. Oh, here we go. Here's a good one. I didn't see this one earlier. I just jumped over here. This is from Tech Dirt. I said this probably won't come as a surprise, but as people dig deeper into the Department of Justice surveillance of reporter James Rosen, now it's come out that the Department of Justice worked extra hard to avoid having to tell Rosen they were spying on him by bouncing around from judge to judge until they found one who would say okay. First, the Department of Justice argued that they wanted to spy on him for a while, so letting Rosen know, even after a bit of time, would interfere with the ongoing spying. U.S. Attorney Ronald C. McClellan, Jr. Argued that disclosure of the search warrant would preclude the government from monitoring the account should such a step become necessary in the investigation. Mackin said, added that some investigations are continued for many years because while the evidence is not yet sufficient to bring charges, it's sufficient to have identified criminal subjects and or criminal activity serious enough to justify continuation of the investigation. Yeah, sure. And monkeys are flying out of my hind end. Of course, since any surveillance of reporters is supposed to be especially narrowly focused, it shouldn't have been allowed for ongoing situations, but it was. And that might be because the DOJ waited until they found a judge who bought their argument. The new documents show that two judges separately declared that the Justice Department was required to notify Rosen of the search warrant, even if the notification came under a delay. Otherwise, the subscriber therefore will never know by being provided a copy of the warrant, or never know. Yeah, by being provided a copy of the warrant. For example, that the government secured a warrant and searched the contents of her email account. Judge John M. Faciola, F-A-C-C-I-O-L-A, Faciola, wrote in an opinion rejecting the Obama administration's argument. Mackin appealed that decision, and in September 2010, Royce C. Lambert, the chief judge in the federal district court for the District of Columbia, granted Mackin's request to overturn the order of the two judges. This suggests yet again that this wasn't one effort, but rather a part of a larger concerted effort to spy on journalists and create chilling effects for whistleblowers. Ooh, chilling. How about you just give them the California howdy and tell them to stuff it up their hind end?
Yeah, Spike.
Yes, sir.
You got the wrong location. Flying monkeys come from judges' chambers.
Well, then they're coming out of the judge's hind end then.
Just like they did this morning at that hearing down there that they tried to railroad the poor guy with the tobacco company. They thought it was a done deal. They weren't even going to call the bailiffs or the U.S. Marshals. They just going to go in there and rubber stamp everything and be in and out of there. Well, it didn't work that way.
They had a surprise, huh?
Yes. And there was witnesses, so all of a sudden they decided they needed to have marshals as well as the bailiffs. Yep, monkeys all sitting there waiting to pounce on the poor victim.
They called the monkeys out on you, huh? Well,
monkeys didn't get their victim.
Flunkies, monkeys, same thing.
Can you imagine proceeding without the attorney, without the prosecutor being present?
Yeah, case dismissed. You're out of here. Bye.
Well, they threw the guy in jail instead because he wouldn't grant jurisdiction. I think you're right. Case dismissed.
Yeah.
Prosecute.
Yeah, prosecutor didn't show up, man. That's bye-bye. That's the end of the case.
Yep. So the judges decide to prosecute.
Yeah, yeah. Well, then it'd be time to pull out your little manual and go to town on them then and run them through the administrative process.
It amazes me how arrogant the wing monkeys have become.
Well, when you go to his boss for a hearing, like we had discussed in earlier programs that we found out was the missing key to all these administrative processes going to hell in court, when they came out and admitted it in North Carolina and said, you didn't go to their agency first and ask for a hearing. Because after you do that, then you have every right to take them to the administrative court because they refuse to settle.
In other words, go before the chief judge of that court?
Either that or go right to the attorney general of the state.
What's a federal court?
Oh, then you would go to Eric Holder then.
You know, the bat faggots are trying to prosecute state crimes.
Yeah, you would go to Eric Holder then and ask for a hearing.
He's charged with operating a tobacco company without a state license.
He's hungry. He doesn't have to.
That's correct.
Just like the casinos, they don't have to have a license.
Well, all the casinos do have a license, except the one, and the man that was running that, he's in prison without being tried and without having a trial.
Well, that sounds
and
familiar.
They're in violation of speedy trial right now in his, and they're still holding him.
Well, you know, we've been doing this a while now, and we've seen that thousands of times. And they like to try that
people
game.
Seem to think there's justice, Spike.
There
How
is.
can you have justice when people are being put in jail, and the court doesn't even have jurisdiction to do what they're doing?
Right now, there isn't, because the people.
The chief, he's charged with operating a casino without a state license.
The people have been dumbed down to the point, Dave, where they don't understand that we are supposed to be the enforcement. We are supposed to be the ones who go and stop these people from doing this BS and take care of these people in Washington. We're the ones that are supposed to do it. People don't remember their history.
You would have to file a complaint with Holder then against
Yep.
this judge?
You'd have to file for a hearing.
That ain't never going to happen.
Yep, that's why you just go ahead after you file for the hearing, then you go ahead and start your other paperwork because you know he's not going to answer it. So
you sure you don't file before the chief judge of the district?
You can do it there too. You need to go to the head dude of the agencies, and filing it more than one wouldn't hurt, because then you could say, hey, you covered all your bases. Right?
You're going with Holder because you're going against the U.S. attorney who failed to appear, right?
And the judge, because he's a federal judge. And only the administrator above him could do anything about it. That's why you got to go to the administrator above the one you have a problem with, the top guy there, to...
Well, then you'd have to go to the chief judge of the district as far as the judge goes. But the prosecutor, yeah, you're probably right, would have to go to Holder.
Yep. And like I said, you might as well get the paperwork ready for both sides of that, because and take them to administrative court, because they're not going to answer. You know, they're not going to give you a hearing. And then that's the part that everybody has missed. They never gave us the rule book. You know, they've hid the rule books as much as they could, and we have to drag it out of them, clawing and kicking. But they give us the answer just about every time they open their mouth in the courtroom, don't they?
What about filing a writ with the chief judge?
I'm not sure. I don't know much about writs. I'd have to check that out. You probably know more about that than I do.
Second District Court of Appeal.
And one other thing, was this a court of record, or was it a court of no record?
Apparently it was an attempt to be a court of no record, but there was indeed a record. There was a clerk, and a bailiff was called in at the last minute.
That still don't mean they kept it, though. You know, we've been finding in a lot of these courts, the reason that they have courts of no record now is because they're railroading you so bad, they don't want any record of it. All these speeding tickets and parking tickets and all these different traffic violations, if you go down and look for the judge's order to pay the fine, you're going to find that there was never any order written.
Well, these damn attorneys that the court appointed to represent him actually pled him guilty and had agreed with the judge to pay a fine of $500,000.
Oh, my God. And I would have stepped up behind the guy and I would have patted him on the back and said, Your Honor, this man takes all responsibility and he is my, what do you call that, power of attorney. He accepts all the deals that he makes with you on personally himself. Have a nice time in prison, buddy. Because that's what they're doing to you in court when the judge says, do you have anything to say for yourself? And your attorney pats you on the back and steps away. They just gave you over to him. You can turn around and do the same thing. Pat him on the back and say, hey, this guy is my power of attorney. He agreed through contract to accept all the deals and all the stuff, so he's personally responsible. Have at him. Thank you.
Very, very good. But this guy, he fired the attorneys right on the spot and did it in writing and served them with a notice of revocation of signature and power of attorney and told him, you guys are out of here.
That's good.
They weren't prepared for what they got hit with this morning in court.
No, they probably went and started doing the curly shuffle up there, trying to figure out which end was catching and which one was fetching.
Yeah, and now we're trying to figure out where do we go from here because they broke all the rules. So where's your best alternative? Because we've already got the other case. We filed for writs of error. We've filed writs of habeas, and the writ of habeas in regards to the chief has been pending since the 18th of January. It's still pending before the Supreme Court of the United States, and they haven't even acknowledged receipt of it.
That's the hot potato they don't want.
They have not put a case number on it.
Gentlemen.
We got full proof that they received it. We have the green card. We have the certification by the U.S. Post Office. They did receive it. They have been sent 2 letters since then requesting acknowledgement of it. They don't even acknowledge the letters or get them, and they were all sent certified. So we know that they got the writ. We know that they got the letters of notification, and yet they have not yet registered the case and put a number on it.
They're scared. I've got Wild Bill trying to get in there for some last-minute thoughts here. We're up the top of the hour. What's your last-minute thoughts there, Bill?
Well, I didn't mean to interrupt, but it goes back to the discussion. Soros, if you're going to defeat the enemy, you have to know how they think, or presumably think. And his reflexivity, and the reflexivity is part and parcel of the knowledge process. And it creates the Heisenberg conundrum of the uncertainty. And that's the whole entire purpose. King Johnny, for President 2012, has mentioned, and it must be pretty bad up there as well, it's time to go ahead with the grand juries and prepare to take these people into custody. And that's all there is to it. Henry said it.
Yep.
It will be a fight. It will be messy, but it's worth it.
We're the enforcement. Nobody else.
Indeed.
And that is the top of the hour. We'll be back tomorrow night with the Militia Town Hall meeting in this slot. And y'all have a good night. Thank you for watching and listening. And we will be back Monday with more Hammering the New World Order. So y'all stay tuned. You got Mark and Don and the Intelligence Report coming up next. And we will see you all tomorrow. Night all. Here's some Poker Face to take us out with.
Spike, chirp me. David's got the number, please.
I got your number, too.
Yeah.
Oh, he hung up too soon.
HempUSA.org urges everyone to plan ahead for possible food shortages in the future. We offer this.
When I was young, my teacher told me that I was free. Yeah. And as a child,